Hey everybody, it's low quality Mike here, and we're gonna do a recap of week five because right now we're pretty much into week six. Week five was pretty exciting if you are a fan of upsets, that is. Um, there were at least three, and pretty much a lot of people had expectations of certain players winning, and things didn't quite go their way, and so that that'll mix things up a bit. I'm going to be rather quick this time round, and in fact, I may even decide not to cover one game, or I'll touch on it very briefly. But yeah, reason being, I have a lot of stuff to do this week. I've been pretty busy, and I am expected to play a pretty important match. So yeah, if you're interested in this series, go ahead and check out the previous videos. I've been covering week by week everything that's going on, and I expect to have other people join me on comms every now and then on Saturdays or Sundays. So yeah, going into this, we got D4 from the Wolfpack and Quartos from the Indie Scooters. Um, so it looks like they have just opted out. Um, what I mean to say is that they cut out Hyoga. Anyways, we go with Eggy lead versus Lax lead. Eggy gonna steal those leftovers. Thief isn't too common, but it's not it's not unheard of. What's even less common is T-Bolt Sleep Talk Zap. You usually prefer it for precision. Nothing to say there. I'm not going to be clicking the pause button all too much. Cloy comes in on Quartos' Lax. Um, as soon as possible, comes in, sets the Toxic, isn't really fearing Thor, Lax, or what's it called? Lovely Kiss because of the Eggy there, of course, as you should expect. And interestingly enough, Quartos goes for an EQ, gets a big fat hit, but in return also gets boomed on. So didn't quite turn out very well for Quartos. That boom essentially avoided D4 from having to go for a second boom there. Lax sets up, and it's probably also EQ. We don't know for sure, but he full paras twice. There were lots of paras this season. And we see Alakazam in his debut in SPL XIV this season, that is. Going for a Toxic as D4 jumps right back to Lax. Probably no better option right now on this team. So we do see that D4 is going to rest up and go to Gengar. Of course, he has the spikes advantage and gets a Thief off of that lick. So even if this Snorlax is just Monolax for any reason, which is entirely in the realm of possibility for a team so frail to special attacks, then it's still going to be able to chip that licks a lot. No lefties and spikes on the ground. That's going to be a big deal. In fact, Lax is going to come in on this predicted rest turn, which is interesting because we haven't yet seen a curse. Well, I mean, we have seen a curse move. So it's Sleep Talk. We've seen quite a few curse laxes that are Sleep Talk because they're pretty valuable in situations where you can afford to win with things that beat Gengar. So if you can beat Gengar, usually lots of things beat Steelix. It's not too much of a problem. But if you can beat Gengar even without pursuit support, then you can afford yourself a Mono Lax, even though it goes against common practice. But we've been seeing this quite a bit. Fear for One had this. Good switch to Cloy there, as it fulfilled its purpose. And we're not quite sure what Quartos has in the back, but knowing this team so well, it's a good chance that he has Vaporeon, or perhaps Gengar. It's one of the most famous teams, the Borat team. Zapdos is gets a good crit there. Very important crit at that. Kind of signaled Quartos to click Psychic and not Boom early, so Eggy getting punished hard, and in fact, this Zapdos is going to prove very helpful with against whatever is in the back there. Zap and Alakazam together, in all likelihood, will be able to take that last unrevealed poke on. So even if Quartos were to boom on the lax, that's not preferable to take that boom. So D4 is going to catch it, and now it's 4-2, and it's looking really grim for Quartos. Gets that boom, Zam is going to come in because it's faster. It's faster even than Raikou, and in many games it's the fastest. It's only outsped by Jolteon and Arrow and Electrode. So Toxic on the what's its name? Vaporeon is going to put it on a timer, of course. And you got to watch out because Alakazam can have Encore, and we're going to see an Encore. Meaning, this Vaporeon is toast. It's not going to survive. That's it. And Quartos forfeits early, only by a few turns. I wouldn't be mad at Quartos for losing this game. D4 has gone entirely undefeated and taken down some very big opponents and proving to be very, very consistent and very well prepped. So good on him. Kudos to both. And moving on to the next match, we do have Seattle versus Century Express. And I think I predicted Seattle to win. Oh no, I don't want my computer to die second time while I'm narrating. And Century Express is the match. The matchup is pretty close in my opinion. Two players at very close levels. Century Express having a slight edge, but I am a firm believer in the Church of Seattle. So we got Cloy lead versus Unrevealed. Versus Zap, Century Express making the typical double, but this time round it's not paying off all that well. Nidoking comes in, steals leftovers from Zapdos. That's going to prove very helpful, especially coming in on Nido. So Thief, I've seen Seattle use variations of Nidoking before. Thief Lovely Kiss, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that's pretty good because it kind of forces the Zapdos to use Sleep Talk and it can get some bad rolls. But the downside is that this Lax, which is looking to be Curse EQ, is not going to get slept. So you just got to 1v1 it. You come in with Cloy, you take a hit. Uh, but Siatam, in all likelihood, is going to want to lay those spikes. And that's going to give Sentry this freebie to rest up and recuperate. Meantime, Tyranitar comes in, is going to phase out that Lax, and it's going to go unscathed, more or less. But at the very least, Siatam has a lead in terms of spikes. But Nidoking now took a big fat 62% off that EQ. Tyranitar, funnily enough, can deal more damage to Nidoking with EQ than Nidoking can do back to it, even though Nidoking gets stabbed. That's just how strong Tyranitar is. Lax sets up, bashes that smug grin on Steelix's face with that chiseled jawline. Does it again as Steelix roars in. So we do see Lick's Tar on Century Express's end, meaning that the Tar, in all likelihood, is offensive. What about Siatam? Siatam's team looks more like a classic Nidogar Tar, which we have not seen in this tournament up until this point. In comes a Gar, so it's pretty similar. The matchup is quite similar, a little different. With With a Steelix, Century Express can afford more offensive strategies on T-Tar without it having to use Roar. Gengar is going to KO that shellfish, the Cloyster. Did they get spikes? Gengar gets pursued. Yes, they did get spikes. So spikes are permanent on either end. A little more old-fashioned. Century Express is using a team that very much looks like the team I've constantly referenced in comms this season. And it's a team that was used by Conflict in the finals of SPL XII, with the sole difference being that Conflict led with Snorlax. It was a very famous match. Cloyster comes in, will prove valuable as a threat, not only to Boom, but also to use Surf. If you consider that Explosion as an attacking move, then Cloyster is very hard to resist. Lax comes in, dealing 40%, as per normal, 43 to be exact. And we don't know if Siatam has a hidden Curse EQ. It's been done before, but he will go to Cloyster and sack it. Instead of going to T-Tar to Pursuit Trap, because the Tar is quite low, he will go to Zapdos. But can he afford this? He decides to stay in and gets a good roll with Thunder there. If he can get another, that would put Lax in a tight spot. Well, not great, but now the Zapdos has to worry about taking +1. Can it survive? We'll find out, or not. So in this exchange, Zapdos came out on top, managed to get some HP back. We do see Century Express also has Mono Lax, which is quite interesting. Screech Tar, yeah. Screech Tar on Century's end, but what we see ahead of before us is, in fact, excuse the shaky commentary here. What we see here is Roar Tar. Roar and Screech can be considered mutually exclusive. But I was saying Screech because Sentry's Tar is Screech. Lix looks very strong. Lix and Tar on Sentry's team look very strong. But both players have a good shot at winning. Sentry with a slight advantage and has 2 booms over Siatam having only, none. And eventually this Tar is going to be weakened. Gonna go for a Rock Slide there, taking out the Zap, which slightly enables Nidoking. That's nice. Decides to stay in, gets a nice 46 off of Sentry's Tar. Is going to go to Nido there. Everything is grounded. Therefore, he can go for an EQ. Sentry is going to look to trade, letting the Lax come in for free. Well, almost. Because there's Lovely Kiss. And Siatam is going to rely on the mechanics of RNG in the hopes of getting this Lax to die. That also helps. A dead turn, but unfortunately Lovely Kiss misses after that. So Sentry rests up. That might have gone very favorably had that Lovely Kiss landed. But now it's not over, but it's very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to respond to this Gengar without your Pursuit Trapper anymore. As unfortunately, Siatam cannot go to Zap. I don't know if I agree with this play of switching to Steelix there. I feel like you had all of the momentum with all of the initiative with Gengar, but all right. Then again, if things go wrong, that essentially would guarantee Siatam the win. So I seem to understand the Lix play. Lix is very resilient in certain cases. If all it has to worry about is Snorlax, then it can do the job. No fancy switches. Reason being that a lot of these mons are very, very bulky. So it's going to boil down to Lax versus Lax. Aw, dang. Sorry, commentator bias there. The double edge doesn't quite break the licks. Interesting. Ought to go to Zapdos there. This looks like it's nearly over. Then again. Then again, if Siatam's Lax goes down, they do speed tie. Sentry gets a good roll. He wins the speed tie. And Lax is down. And Siatam would need 2 crits to get through this Lax. But doesn't get them. In fact, he couldn't even win even if he got 2 crits, but got 1 crit because he wouldn't get to the second. Hopes for a freeze. It's good that he didn't give up there, but Sentry wins out. Good job. Good job to both players. A little bit old-fashioned teams, if I do say so myself. I don't really have anything to say regarding these moves. It turns out that Thief Lovely Kiss wasn't all that bad. Although I don't know if the Thief really helped. I suppose it did, because it secured the KO from T-Tar. But Century Express managed to maneuver very well. Moving on, this is one of our interesting games. We got M-Dragon versus Conflict. This is a super hype matchup. Really awesome. Lots of fun to be said regarding this duo. They probably have a long history. Conflict is the more recent player, which is something somewhat surprising, if I say so myself, when seeing them play modern GSC in 2023. It's not every day that Conflict is considered the more recent player, which by no means he's the underdog. By no means. We got Nidolead versus Jinx. Conflict going to Fori as a early switch into Lax, supposedly, and M-Dragon goes to Nidoking, which looks really scary, goes for a Thief, and Conflict immediately booms, which is interesting. We know Conflict for his teams being... sometimes he likes to afford having a team with one fewer Sleep Talker, one fewer Phaser, one fewer Sleep Talk Lax, things like that. So the choice to boom on Nidoking so early. Maybe it's an indication he doesn't have a Lovely Kiss absorber or something like that. He likes his Lovely Kiss Lax a lot, things like that. So we do see Jinx going for the sub immediately on the Lax, which is interesting. With the revealed Earthquake, though, what could that possibly signify? Goes for a sub, and M-Dragon, surely enough, is Sleep Talk EQ. Doesn't get a good roll there, but Conflict shows that he has Nightmare. So now all we need to see is the attacking move on Conflict's Jinx. Will he opt to keep the Jinx in? He actually does, which is interesting. And just like that, Jinx is extremely low, can't go for sub anymore. Clicks Nightmare, but it's all for naught, and the Lovely Kiss has been absorbed. So M-Dragon is going to capitalize, get his own spikes, as Gengar comes in. Gengar doesn't quite check this Snorlax, but it could boom on it. Instead, prefers to go to his own Lax. Could this be a boom Lax? What will M-Dragon do? How's he going to respond? He's going to go to Cloyster. Takes a DE. The threat of Conflict's Lax, which looks likely to be it could have been Curse. It's Thunder. It could also be Sleep Talk. It could be Boom. I don't think it's Sleep Talk. Otherwise, he would have brought it in. On the Nido, probably. This T-Tar is looking mighty scary. In comes Starmie. This is quite interesting. Jinx Starmie. I don't think I remember the last time I've seen that. Oh, but unfortunately for Conflict, M-Dragon brought T-Bolt Zapdos into him, meaning that the Starmie isn't going to be able to fish for a Thunder Miss, and there's a crit super effective Hidden Power Water, and all of a sudden Conflict is in deep, deep trouble. So it's Hidden Power Water, and Gengar looks to be the biggest check to the Zapdos, as M-Dragon goes for a Thunder Wave, and now all of a sudden, Conflict's team is in dire trouble against Lax. Hidden Power. Was it Hidden Power Water? Possibly. Takes out the Jinx. It was low. Conflict can boom here. M-Dragon chooses to attack. I guess we'll never know. But it did have EQ. I guess I missed that turn. I suppose it was EQ on the Tar. Vaporeon comes in on M-Dragon's team. And Vaporeon basically beats most Starmie. Asterisk. And the Gengar goes down. And that's the game. And the player that was up until now undefeated was taken down by the old dog, M-Dragon. Really interesting performance. You know, if I had caught this live, I mean, I did, but I didn't want to say anything. I didn't record it, but it would have been interesting. And who knows? Maybe I'll touch back on this matchup as well. Really interesting comp by Conflict, having at least 4 Boom Mons, a Starmie, and a Jinx. We all know Conflict likes 3 attacks Lax, and other kinds of fun stuff. M-Dragon brought a few optimizations of his own. We don't know if it's sub, if it's acid armor, or just classic Sleep Talk Vaporeon. But it really played out well, and I do gotta say that was awesome. Then, of course, we do have our game between Fear and Jester, which I did already commentate on. So, as far as this game is concerned, we know the outcome already. So this was the second upset, but this happened actually before, a few hours before Conflict in M Dragon. So we got Lax on Lax lead, and they both curse into each other. Fear brings frustration. Gets the first crit on turn 2, but the second one doesn't quite make it. The third frustration does also crit. A couple of early crits, but luckily enough, Jester manages to use Curse Talk very well. So that goes well. And not only, but he gets a huge ass crit on the Steelix. And the spikes are going to go down probably permanently. So spikes with a Lix having to fend off a very healthy Sleep Talk Lax, that looks very ugly. And Jester's going to bring T-Tar. So already in this position, Fear is sort of struggling. Going to stay in on the Tar, but flinches one turn. Hopefully doesn't flinch the next for him. He does manage to set up one curse. At this point, Jester could choose to use Roar, which turns out to be the case. Very good call. Reason being, now the Lax is very low. Now it's not as likely to come in on Thunder. And the Lix is already low, so good play. Good play to go for that Roar there. And with the Roar, Espeon is also revealed, which goes for Hidden Power Water. Not very effective on Starmie, but it's meant to target Tar. In comes Misdreavus, which is very interesting. Gets parried by the Starmie. We don't see a spin, of course, because Jester was targeting Espeon. But Jester's going to go to Zapdos. Gets a crit Hidden Power Ice. I have no idea. I still have no idea what that Misdreavus is supposed to do. Of course, he used Toxic, but Espeon comes in, forces out the Zapdos, who cannot afford to click Rest there. So that's nice for him, for Fear. But the Starmie is looking very threatening into Fear's team right now, especially with the weakened Lax. Forcing Fear to go for some weird plays and to stay in with Misdreavus, possibly even on a turn where it didn't want to. In comes this Tar, and Misdreavus does go for Pain Split though, so there are some nice techniques up Fear's sleeve there, but flinch. Jester gets the Paraflinch and will effectively take out Misdreavus, which was the best chance Fear had at walling the Lax. Fear's going to go for another Roar. Jester's going to go for a Roar. And at this point, with the Tar so weakened, Jester only aims to weaken the Espeon more. And he's going to keep his Tar as potential fodder. He may spin here. He does. Fear isn't completely out of the Spikes game. His Cloyster, which is poisoned, could eventually be put to use. And Jester's going to be the first to start setting up. Double Edge. Of course, Lax survives, but doesn't survive a crit. And Fear's going to go for a early-ish boom, taking out the Zapdos. Zapdos wasn't entirely that useful, so good identification of a win con. Crit's going to take out the Lix. And all of a sudden, Fear's best way of being Lax is with his own Lax. It's going to use Curse, gets the slight turn advantage there. and he's going to hope to win the speed tie and use curse again. He does just that. And now he is safe to click rest. But that is also cue for Jester to set up even more. Or attack. Oh, there you go. Didn't quite remember this turn. You know, with the infinite amount of turns that I'm looking at all the time. Commentating on 5 games in a day is always so intense. Just imagine it like a best of 5. Snorlax, Frustration deals 31. Double Edge deals 34. But if you keep in mind the fact that there's recoil, they're dealing about the same amount to each other. But when there is a boost advantage, it's another story. Jester has 1 boost and deals 50% to Fear now. And the thing is, with all the HP Snorlax has, there's going to be a lot of recoil as well. Enough to nullify the leftovers and then some. Which could end up mattering. 35 and then a -8 there. Of course, whoever wins most likely wins the match. So even with only 1 answer to Snorlax, if Fear wins, then Fear most likely wins the game. If Jester wins, then he definitely wins the game. Snorlax Wars. Name a more iconic duo. And there's a crit. They're at the same speed. And Jester clutches out the victory there. Espeon can beat the Lax, but why stay in when you can just paralyze this Espeon, and now you have an entry point for your Lax to set up for free and use rest. So, in the worst of scenarios, Tar, interestingly enough, comes in on this turn, goes for a fusion flinch or whatever it's called, para flinch, and we see Marowak revealed in the back. For a more accurate depiction of this match, I recommend looking at the live game where I co-commentate with Siata. And Marowak is going to seal the deal. Marowak is very scary. I'm not sure if this is definitely not the first time we see Marowak in the game, in the tour. It was very interesting. Now, good job on Jester, of course. This game was originally meant to be a game between Alice and Luis. That turned out to be a 400 turn stall game that happened before Jester, but it was on the same day as Jester versus Fear and M-Dragon versus Conflict. And this game ended just around like before Conflict versus M-Dragon was meant to happen. It ended in a tie. Imagine if I chose to commentate on that. I would have been very frustrated if it ended in a tie. Thankfully, I didn't. This other game also lasts a fuck ton. And I didn't even know that you could sub out a player after a tie, but either way, Alice versus this guy. I'm gonna keep this on fast. I'm not really gonna say much in this game because I really don't want to talk for 200 turns. I have a lot to do. So Cloy lead usually means you have Raikou in the back. Alice switches to Raikou on the Zapdos, surely enough. And we see Eggy. Eggy is typically not on stall, so this looks to be a boom offense of some sort. There's a Lax, that doesn't really say much. GGGD, or 4Gs, has Fori, does not scout because of the light screen. So light screen stall. Not every day that you see this. It could be HP Fire, Toxic, Spike Spin, Fori. In comes Misdreavus. There's the Flamelax check. So Flamelax, all he needs is a Curselax check now. There's Golem. Zap comes in on the Golem. And yes, this is a boom offense team. So Alice has the initiative right now. Thunder is a clean 3-hit KO on Zapdos. So 4Gs is going to respect that. But of course, Blissey is very, very annoying. And it's not easy to respect. Ice Beam dealing a very nice amount of damage. You got to watch out for Boom there. They speed tie with each other. Blissey speed ties with Eggy. So that those two Ice Beams paid off a lot. Kind of awkward to go for that Psychic on the screen turn there. I'm behind in comms, but that's all right. The Misdreavus prone, I guess, force Lax in for some reason. And we do see Alice has a LK of her own, but again, with the Heal Bell support that Misdreavus offers, this can be really tricky. So LK, Fire Blast, Lax. I cannot remember the last time I've seen this. Very odd to switch Zap into Raikou there, then doubling to Blissey. Goes for Toxic, hoping to catch something. I don't know if I agree with that play. This turn here on turn 28. Probably would have just gone for Surf. Raikou. No one cares. And look, just like that, 30 turns are gone. Heal Bell, all of the status is gone as well. And now it would have been alright-ish to click Toxic, but it doesn't happen. So 4Gs has a chance to use a lot of Spike's control. Alice's win conditions, I didn't say what Alice's 6th is, but it looks like a Heracross. If it is, Alice's win condition could be to take out Zapdos, or simply to take out Blissey. Unfortunately for Alice, her Lax is poisoned, but everything else is rather healthy, minus the Eggy. So taking out Blissey, or Zapdos, or Misdreavus will prove to be very helpful. Interestingly enough, Alice's doubles out instead of clicking rest there. There's a lot of doubles going on. I'm not going to go back because this game is long. It's not like long, but I have places to be, so. Not for GSC standards, at least. I don't usually complain about games that last over 100 turns. Oh, Lord. That's not going to end well. Alice's boom gets caught. So the fact that Alice targeted Zapdos to boom, potentially, might mean that there is a Hera. But now the Hera doesn't look like it's in a good spot, if it is Hera. And there's a second boom missing, so the Lax was not rest. I kind of like this. Lovely Kiss Flame Double Edge, that's nice. Or Fire Blast, rather. No Spadef drop. Would have been nice. But even so, Misdreavus gets taken down, but at this point, does it even matter? The lax is gone. There's nothing to spin. Zap comes in. Will nice double to Cloy. Goes for Surf. I don't know about that Surf. Alright. Goes back to Cloy, gets the Toxic on me. Stays in. Because there's no real big fat offensive win con. 4Gs is just going to try maybe to set up with the lax. And that's it. Alice doesn't really have an answer to this lax if not through booming and trying to fight back. But fighting back can be a very big problem. So if Alice loses Raikou, then it's a big problem. Nice switch to the Eggy there. Could boom here. Does. So all of a sudden, if there is a Hera in the back, well, if there were a Hera, she would certainly have gone in on that turn. But she didn't. So still no revealed. What else could be in the back? Maybe a special attacker? Maybe a Marowak? I don't know. Maybe a Machamp. Perhaps Machamp. Machamp might make more sense. Alice likes Machamp. Cloy. Oh, Zapdos. Wait, have we seen this already? We've seen this team, right? Ooh, bad matchup. And this is why I don't like double alike. It achieves basically nothing. Like, this isn't a dunk on Alice. This is a dunk on double elect teams. What does Zapdos add to the table? Like, this game would be won if there were a Marowak or a Hera or something. I don't know. Maybe even Whirlwind Zap. I don't know. Drill Peck Zap. Drill Peck Zap. That would be cool. But yeah, a lot of this happens. We're at 100 turns. Starmie rests or recovers or whatever it does. It does that. Starmie comes in. Starmie... Does Starmie matter? I guess it does. Blissey comes in. More of this. And this is where I get very bored. Starmie or whatever, Alice can beat this Blissey if there are at least 2 more full paras. No. Or of course if the Zapdos were Drill Peck. But no. Everything got healed up and also is back to pristine health. At least there are the spikes. Wait, I think there was an important turn there. Starmie uses Recover. And right on that one turn that 4Gs decides to stay in on the Zapdos full paras, and Alice says, "Come the fuck on," because that would probably have sealed the game there. Well, possibly. This is awkward. Goes to Bliss. Recover, no boom, ice beam. At least there are no spikes, I guess, on Alice's side, I think. I'm not really sure. Yeah, there are none. No boom because it doesn't contribute to anything. And I hate double lick. Light screen Blissey is very good. Near Nifdew. Oh, again with the full para. There was a second full para of Zapdos on me. And Alice is very upset, to say the least. Everything is either sleeping or paralyzed on Alice's team. This is very boring stuff. I'm almost forgetting that I'm commentating. Alright, I'm just skipping ahead. Fuck this shit. I don't care. So, moving on. Cloyster dies, and so does Starmie. And so, at this point, Blissey still has plenty of PP. Raikou has a decent amount. Zapdos has a decent amount. Spikes are permanently on the ground, therefore the Alice can no longer infinitely switch. And at some point, I'm guessing Alice will forfeit. Also gets mad, because understandably, honestly. No crits, the Zapdos is frozen, setup, blah blah blah, GG. Alright. So. Heroic troller. Heroic troller comments. Maldini. Alright. I don't know why, but I just liked the reference to AC Milan there. Alright, so this is our recap of week 5. I tried to be concise as possible while giving you guys some semblance of decent content. The quality of this channel has dipped. I apologize for that, but that's one of the issues with commentary and competing at the same time. Now, as for my predictions, which I have not yet given anywhere, all of the games are yet to be played, but for week 6, my predictions are, off the top of my head, M-Dragon Jester is very... To me, it seems like it would be kind of close in terms of play style. I feel like neither are favored in terms of... Because Jester has a certain quality to his ability to choose the right moves. M-Dragon has to make sure he chooses the right builds. If he can make a right build, he will have a significant advantage, in my opinion, over Jester. So I'll bold M-Dragon. D4 versus Seattle. Well, last week, one undefeated person has fallen, and is Siatam the one to take down the next undefeated person in D4? I didn't really think that D4 would perform so well, and unless Siatam can find really a lot of things going his way and just the perfect team, and the right strategy, it's looking to be very tough for the Ruiners. So I think that d4 gets bolted in this. And here we have a surprise. Surprise. We got Fear versus False. False coming in over Alice. Rather unexpected. I guess Alice needs a break, or maybe they're supping in False indefinitely. Who knows? Um, False is pretty good, but not quite Fear's level, I would say. Fear is easily one of the strongest in the pool. It's not. There's, yeah. He's like the second best, or the best, or the top three. He hasn't won as many as Conflict in D4, but this is easy. So yeah, I'm bolding Fear. And then we got Century Express versus Conflict. Century Express is very interesting. He's proving to be pretty consistent. I think he lost 2 games, but nonetheless, or maybe he only lost 1. I think that Conflict beats Century Express. That said, Century Express is a very interesting player. He is an expert in this craft when it comes to building interesting teams. So this will definitely be fun because there's going to be a lot of there might be very different from the run of the mill GSC that we are used to seeing. But I bold Conflict. Then we got 4Gs versus Quartosa. I honestly don't know. I suppose Quartosa. These are both. I don't think Quartos has yet won a game, and 4Gs won a game against Alice. It was a pretty good stall game, a pretty good matchup, though. Um, these players are neither here nor there, I guess. It's not. I haven't seen anything particularly new. I cannot even make a prediction on this. This is the iffiest GSC that we're gonna see easily. So I suppose it boils down to their support, but right now I can't remember what the support on the Scooters team is. I mean, I know a guy, but I don't know if he's helping. And 4Gs on the Sharks, I'm not really sure who else could be of support. Perhaps Watashi, I don't know. But yeah, so that is my prediction. I guess we're bolding Quartos. So yeah, that's my official prediction. I hope you guys enjoyed. Oh man, you didn't see the screen. I'm just going to change that so you can see real quick because I'm not going to edit this. So, like I was saying, as a Amdragon, D4, Fear, Conflict, and Quartos or Quartosa. Take care. Go check out the other videos while you're at it if you need to catch up on anything. And bye.